short tea break there. Well, we are here for the panel discussion now, and I'd like to share with all of you that all those of you who wanted to attend the Keystroke Dynamics Apply to Websites, the presentation by Enrique Kellott is happening on in the hall on my right, since we were short on time. So all those of you who'd like to attend that session are most welcome to do so. While we're going to continue with our panel discussion here, panel discussion on surveillance, privacy, and cyber espionage in the aftermath of PRISM. In the next couple of minutes, you will see the panelists on the dais here. But first, I'd like to invite on stage our moderator. Let us put our hands together as I welcome on stage Mr. Dinesh Bareja, Cyber Surveillance Advisor, Cyber Defense Research Center. I'd also like to tell all of you that the Twitchathon that we've been conducting and informing all of you to be a part of, Dineshji is indeed the winner of the same. So let's put our hands together for the man who's won. And trust me, you guys are most welcome to go on Twitter, tweet about all of this, your experience here, and there are chances of you winning some more prizes. So make sure you do that right here at our tweet counter. So till then, once again, let's welcome on stage our moderator for the panel discussion, Mr. Dinesh Bareja. Mr. Bareja, may I request you to please join us on the dais? I'd also like to invite our panelists on stage. Let's put our hands together as I welcome on stage Honorable Justice B.P. Singh, former Judge, Supreme Court of India. Shri Rajesh Agarwal, IAS, Secretary, IT, Government of Maharashtra. Shri Muktesh Chandra, IPS, Joint CP, Delhi Police. Shri M.M. Oberoi, IPS, Joint CP, Delhi Police. Shri Vijay Sakare, IPS, DIG, BSF. A few of our panelists had to leave for an urgent meeting. We shall hope and wish that they join us at some point. But till then, may I request all the panelists who are still a part of the session to please join us on stage. Once again, I'd like to welcome Shri Vijay Sakare, IPS, DIG, BSF. Warm welcome to you, sir. I'd once again like to invite on stage Shri Muktesh Chandra, IPS, Joint CP, Delhi Police. He was with us a couple of minutes back. Well, since we are running behind schedule, I'd request our moderator to please begin with the panel discussion. We shall look forward to our other panelists joining us, and then we can continue. Till then, we shall begin with the panelists who are already here. So just, I'll get the name tags changed then. Okay, great. Makes sense. Let's put our hands together for our moderator and the panelists present on the dais.
Good evening, everybody. End of a long day. A lot of good stuff happening over the day, of course, and a lot of learning to take home. We're starting off on the panel discussion, and a few of our dignitaries have had some prior commitments and they had to leave, or some ongoing commitments and they had to leave. But I think my panel here is, expert enough and knowledgeable enough to be able to really share a lot of insights with you on these areas. The discussion, the panel discussion is on surveillance, privacy, and cyber espionage in the aftermath of PRISM. Now, if anybody of you doesn't know surveillance, or doesn't know the meaning of surveillance, or privacy, or cyber espionage, or doesn't know what PRISM is, can you just raise your right hand if you don't know what PRISM is? So I guess everybody knows what PRISM is. It is into our common language nowadays. I was just joking about something, is that I practice in information security, so we are primarily risk management professionals. And there is something called a black swan event. The black swan event is of course not just in risk management, but it can be anywhere, and it is something which we have never seen. But in today's scenario, we have what I call a WIPGYOR swan event. So because of PRISM, so what's happened is that you have the spectrum, and you have a swan which is now the color of the WIPGYOR, the spectrum itself. So having said that, introducing Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, he's IT Secretary Maharashtra, and we have Mr. Vijay Sakhare, is DIG BSF, whose views would be solicited on these issues of surveillance, privacy, and cyber espionage over the next 1 hour or so, which we have on hand. We will open the floor for questions as we have time, and I will also take the opportunity of adding a few words in that. So, it's my endeavor to have the panelists speak their opinions, which would be official and or personal, on the issue, which is old cyber espionage or surveillance or PRISM, or not PRISM, I would say. This is all very old stuff, except that it has been turned on its head. So PRISM has changed the game. The way I say it is, it has redefined it, it has twisted it, it has jalebied the whole system. Today nobody understands, or we're still trying to figure out, because every day we have new revelations being made from PRISM. If yesterday it was Australia, today it was France, tomorrow it is Germany, and everybody who is being this thing. So we know it as a global espionage system, and there's another word which we have learned in the last few months is Snowden. And there was a Manning before that, and there was Assange, and there was WikiLeaks, but they are all passé. So what I today say is that PRISM is what we can say is global envy and America's pride. So which is what practically all, I would say, across the world, countries are now gunning to have their own systems in place. And that will be one of the questions which I will put over here. So when we talk about surveillance and privacy and espionage in the aftermath of PRISM, so the first question which I have is that a lot of positive and negative discussions have been happening about these three areas over the past months and years. In India, time and again, it has flared up whenever the IT Act was misused. Okay. So great, we have Alok Vijayant also joining us on the panel. So the question I'm putting out is that a lot of positive and negative. Somebody having fun next door. So a lot of, and this is flared up whenever the IT Act has been misused, misinterpreted, or mis-whatevered. It is dependent on what I say, that who's sitting on the mis table, which side of the table are you sitting on. And I personally have got no personal or professional interest on any side of the table. So what is your take? I can start from Rajesh ji. What is your take on these three attributes that have a bearing on our life and that of the freedom of the internet? While these have been bugging the world, they've been bugging the world earlier also. How has PRISM affected their impact? Should be working.
Yeah. Okay, I wear multiple hats, so let me first wear black hat. So US Patriot Act came 10 years ago. So anybody expressing surprise or shock at what is now in public domain is being quite silly actually. It was known 10 years all along what's happening. Vaishali also touched on her interpretations of laws. So I must say the innocence is touching. So I have a suggestion. If anybody is concerned about privacy, संन्यास लेके हिमालय की गुफा में चले जाना चाहिए. हाँ? और दूसरा है नहीं जाना तो ऐसी बात मत बोलो जो कि रिकॉर्ड कर ले और आपको शर्म आए. ऐसी जगह पे मत जाओ जहाँ पे आपका लेट लॉन्ग रिकॉर्ड हो जाए, फिर आपको शर्म आए। ऐसा काम मत करो कि कोई फ़ोटो खींच ले, पब्लिक डोमेन में आ जाए, आपको शर्म आए। So practically, one cannot live in such a scenario. So any expectation of privacy in present world is basically a non-starter, in a sense. And our society has been very open society, a joint society. If we sit next to somebody in train or bus, in half hour we know each other's family history, medical history, financial history. So in US, Europe, they call it very sensitive personal data, your medical history, financial history, and all of this. So, and if you go to Benares or Haridwar or Hoshiarpur, you will know history of 10 generations of your ancestors. And if you see present generation, you go to their Facebook pages, you will not know only their history, but their present as well as their future. In fact, Facebook now predicts better than humans about your future. Tesco stores in US, they know more about teenage girl getting pregnant than their mothers. Tesco store knows first based on shopping behavior. So that's basically the scenario. And I have been doing a number of projects as Secretary IT with Mumbai Police, Pune Police, with UID, and two projects where I have been speaking publicly about privacy concerns are UID and CCTV, while at the same time being in charge of these two in Maharashtra. So that's good actually, because we can try to balance the security and surveillance aspect with the privacy aspects. So to start with, I think I will restrict my comments to this, that privacy in today's world, you have traded for basically a lot of things, and also for your own convenience. You want to use Google Maps, you want to use so many features of your smartphone and smart TV and other gadgets. So it's a balance between security and user friendliness. So, and as citizens, we have basically opted for more and more user friendly, but less private systems.
Thank you, sir. Vijay, for you.
Thank you. It's an issue which has really fired our imagination, not only in India, everywhere, PRISM. Instead of restricting myself to the issue of PRISM alone, I would like to dwell upon certain important issues which concern the issue of PRISM. Basically, it has to do with the privacy. As we have heard some of the eminent speakers before us, the various aspects of privacy have been very clearly brought about in front of us. Privacy is a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution, and it can be breached by a due process of law only, and in no other way it can be breached. Whether it is government or anybody requires due process of law to breach somebody's privacy. And it is true not only for India, for any democratic country. Now the issue is, if privacy is a fundamental right, do the administrative systems in place in any of the countries can enforce that, can guarantee that? Constitution guarantees this, but do we have systems in place to ensure that the right to privacy is enjoyed by every citizen? If somebody breaches somebody's privacy, do we have the systems in place first to detect the breach of privacy, secondly, to identify the culprit, and thirdly, to bring him to the book? So that is how the issue becomes complex. Every constitution, democratic constitution, guarantees right to privacy, but the systems are not in place either to detect or to punish the culprit. Now coming to the second aspect about the authority of the governments to breach somebody's privacy. Privacy can be breached. In India, we have the Telegraph Act, through which the monitoring is done. People are kept under surveillance, criminals are kept under surveillance, and being an IPS officer with experience of around 18 years in this particular field, I can say that nowadays investigation as well as intelligence is mostly or largely is monitoring of digital devices. So when we talk about any surveillance program, the issues which have to be looked into is, are we able to balance the right to privacy of an individual and need for the national security or the national interest of that particular country. That is what I can say in my opening remarks. Thank you.
We had not introduced Bill earlier, but Bill is, I think you can give just a couple of words about yourself.
Yes. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I come to you from the front lines of what I would term as cyber warfare on a global scale. I'm a simple author, and I'll be presenting tomorrow on the People's Republic of China, but there isn't a country that I've not visited yet, so if I can at least contribute a small amount of that experience to India, I would love to do that, given the opportunity.
So that's a great bill. I don't know if you got the question earlier, but it's like the attributes of surveillance, privacy, cyber espionage in the aftermath of PRISM. So what sort of bearing they have on our life and the freedom of the internet. So you just, while you talked about net neutrality and all of that stuff much before PRISM, they were already bugbears. But then PRISM became the biggest bugbear, and it's growing to be, something which nobody has been able to understand till now. So can you just throw some light on that? And we have a small time limit on that.
Absolutely. The previous gentlemen have raised some great points. Constitutional right of privacy when it comes to online activity, but everybody needs to understand, not only in India and globally, that we are at war in this binary world. And if I could take a poll in the audience, how many people have served in the Indian military? Anybody? No one has? Just one? 3? Of those 3 people, how many of you have been to war? The general has, I know that. For the average person out there, our searches, those of us that have been to war and those that have not on the internet, are going to be different. And I give you an example from Middle America 2 weeks ago. College professor came up to me and he said, "Bill, I have a friend who searched pressure cooker bombs during the Marathon investigation. And then my friend was visited by the FBI, and they wanted to know why he was searching that." As this man was telling me this story, I realized that he was the one that had been visited. And I stopped him and I said, "Do you have any experience with creating bombs or improvised explosive devices? And if you don't, and you don't have any military background, then you really have no business doing that." So in a surveillance state, which is what you're talking about when it comes to PRISM and the constitutionality of searches, and it's relevant to a law enforcement investigation, that's one way of understanding that it's necessary to have that to prevent crimes. The point is, if you don't have a need or a reason to be doing something like that, then don't do it. The other one happened last week in Amsterdam. A gentleman in the audience asked me, so now that we have PRISM and we know that the United States is surveilling other countries, Germany, France, perhaps even India, how can you reconcile the fact that you're talking about Iran, Russia, and China? And I said, well, we all know that espionage at its human level is the oldest form of business next to prostitution. We should all get over that and realize that the larger global issues are one of collaborating as nation states together to prevent the types of crimes and terrorist activities that can affect us as individual nation states. And he was from China.
Good. Thanks, William. I'll probably sort of move it to Alok. Alok, just, your point of view on the fact that the FBI visits somebody who's searching for pressure cookers in the US. And in India, now that's a normal, vessel in our house. And so what do you say? Everybody is going to search for pressure cooker, ki kaun sa kahan pe sasta milta hai, what's like that, So then you'll have everybody, you'll have NTRO and CBI and CID and local police, everybody in the house.
Yeah, that's right, Dinesh. I mean, it's a very good topic actually to speak on. What I'm now going to speak on is to make the conversation a little interesting. I'll play the devil's advocate role. Not necessarily it represents the government viewpoint, but what I'll just try to counter is, if they talk on privacy, then I'm going to talk on surveillance. If they talk on surveillance, then I will change my stance and I'll go on to privacy. So to make the thing a little interesting, I think that's better, right? Okay. So let me just ask, how many of you understand finance here? Anyone? Rupee dollar exchange rates, this? Okay. So the difference between privacy and surveillance, how do you equate the relationship between privacy and surveillance, is something like the appreciation and the depreciation of rupee. Now, what do you consider good? Appreciation of a rupee or depreciation of a rupee? Nobody can answer. Let me tell you, even the Reserve Bank cannot answer this question. It is a balance or a very fine mix of whether you want export-oriented program to be in place or you want import-oriented program to be in place. There is a very delicate balance you have to maintain the rupee dollar rate or rupee vis-a-vis any other foreign currency. Privacy and surveillance is exactly like that. If you don't strike a very definite balance between the two, and if you are lopsided on one side, you are heading for a trouble. So if people are talking about privacy today, okay, now I'm talking about surveillance. How many of you want a terrorist attack to happen in any other place? I'm sure nobody wants a terrorist attack to happen. But what is the mechanism any agency, any law enforcement agency would have to actually find that threat, what you call it, intelligence? Because intelligence is supposed to be one of the two oldest profession in the world. This is the oldest profession in the world and which has been carried on all through. So if you want to actually look for something which is anomalous or something which is important, which can lead you to some proactive measures to prevent some kind of an event from happening, you have to put in intelligence. Many people would have talked about finding a needle in a haystack. Why do they say finding something in a haystack? Why don't you say that? That means there is something known as needle that you are looking for. And that needle can be for different purposes. It can be to sew a button. It can be to prick somebody to take out blood. It can be for any other purpose. So as Dinesh rightly said, that pressure cooker can mean too many things to different people. I become a pressure cooker when I get too much of load from my bosses. I become a pressure cooker. I am likely to explode. So I mean, you can use it in any way. So the question, again, the question of management here comes in. Privacy, how much of privacy you are looking for? When are you looking for that privacy, and what is that privacy you are talking about? I mean, how do you define privacy? Is it privacy when you are talking to another citizen about something, some event happening, or it is your personal life, what is involved, that calls for something to do with privacy? So definition of privacy, how much at what time is very important, because at all times your privacy is not very important. National security and stuff which pertain to national security, they override all kinds of privacy, and I don't think we would have any doubt to actually stall our privacy on account of if you have to look at national security. The question here arises always because actually the man who is looking at your stuff is a man at the end of the day, and he is driven by emotions and sentiments, and that emotions and sentiments lead him to misuse of such kind of a data which is collected over time. If it is done, if the surveillance is done by a machine and automatically it is being deciphered, I don't think we have any problem in doing so. I have problem relating to privacy only if I know that my friend or the person whom I know knows about me. And if he doesn't know about me and I am totally disconnected, I don't think privacy means anything to me at that time. So And again, the surveillance. Surveillance again is a factor of how, when, what, why. Why surveillance? Very well known. You need to find out that needle in the haystack. So you need to do a surveillance for finding that needle. How much you have to do, that you have to define as per some protocols, some procedures, that how much of, uh, by defining the privacy, you have to define how much I infiltrate into privacy for protecting the entire space. So in my view, I think a very fine balance between privacy and surveillance is what is the need of the hour. Who defines privacy? Again, it's a matter of, it's very subjective, and it depends from time to time. When surveillance is most necessary, I think we must have it, and when it is not necessary, we must not have it. And that's the kind of balance which we must look at it from privacy. Thank you.
Thanks, Alok. I just find one thing is that, as we went on the table, is that privacy is sort of coming up to be much, talked about. And of course, Rajeshji told me earlier that I want to be sticking to privacy. But what I would like to say is that surveillance or, okay, just one simple yes or no, I don't think it could come, but I can still ask the same question. Are we horrified with PRISM? Just a yes or no. Mother, it's not, I would not have to take it on anyway. Just because my question is comes from there.
The sun rises in the east, is it right or wrong?
No, no.
Fine, that's okay. I mean, the person who owns it will have.
No, when I say horrified with PRISM, I mean as in the extent of what is being discovered day by day. See, I am bringing it to the context of what we have over here. It's surveillance. It is surveillance at its best. Okay. The point why I say at its best, we lived in a world where there were Nazis. The Nazis had done the same thing with the Jews. They were there. We lived in a world of East Germany where there was Stasi. Again, they were doing the same thing. There was programs or whatever, right? And today there is a technology or somebody's imagination has run so wild that he or she can reach out anywhere to the globe and tell you what color of underwear you're wearing, or what did you buy, or like he said, Rajesh just talked about Tesco being able to tell earlier than you would know that your child is pregnant or not, and which is a fact. And they have faced a lawsuit also over there, right? So now, from that perspective, when you say national security, if you had just seen the congressional representation a week back, he was insisting, or he was always talking about 9/11. So we, instead of using the national security, I would say, paradigm over here, or just that one stick, the point is that how much, again, we are talking about the aftermath of PRISM. It's happening before. This is something which every state requires. I am not a proponent of saying we must not spy, we must not have surveillance. No. I say yes. But unfortunately, Mr. Obama got stuck because of Snowden. That is a different issue altogether. And there is no disclosure happening over here. But then, how much is where? And in the aftermath of PRISM, what has changed for the Indian establishment? I have administrators over here. We've got LEA, we've got IB, and we have a foreign delegate who has been through it all from the other side also. So the question over here is that, have you gone back to the drawing board to change plans, to review your designs for whatever you have been building so far? In terms of, let's say, we have a NatGrid, we have a CCTNS, we had the Radia team also, which did whatever it did, right? We have NCRB, we have all these small and big initiatives, which are at state level, at national level. So has this prompted you to go back to your drawing board?
Can I take this one? Okay, I take this question. When you say that have you gone back to the drawing board, again I said that how much privacy, when and what kind of privacy. Today, when you are talking about surveillance, you are talking about surveillance over one individual or one, I would say, the filter by another individual. Now, till the time you have that human angle on surveillance, you are likely to face issues of emotions, bias, and things like that. The only alternative to this entire thing is put in a central mechanism which is non-biased, non-emotional, and it looks at the merit of the information or the data which is flowing on the network and does not distinguish between CM, PM, and DM. So that kind of a thing, if that kind of a thing is put in place, probably that's the best way to actually talk about surveillance in order to secure your general living in this world. So, as a part of the government initiative, in fact, this was looked at when you are talking about radio tapes and other things which came in. You would see the government took many initiatives to actually systemize this problem. And today, trust me, no data or no surveillance can be carried out except for the typical methods which have been defined in terms of either telling